She had stood in rooms like this before. Lecture halls where her presence was questioned. Offices where her ideas were stolen. Interviews where her smile was mistaken for weakness. She had learned to survive without explaining herself. Leonard sipped his drink slowly, eyes fixed on her like she was part of the entertainment. "Take your time," he said mockingly. "Math can be challenging." Amani nodded once. She turned the napkin over and over, her eyes scanning the symbols. What Leonard had written wasn't random. It was a compressed logic puzzle. A mix of probability, theory, and systems modeling. Something he used to test people's intellect for fun. People leaned in closer. One woman whispered, "This is uncomfortable." Another replied, she should just walk away. But Amani didn't. Her mind was already moving faster than the room could follow. She remembered nights spent studying under a flickering lamp. Textbooks borrowed because she couldn't afford them. She remembered professors who said, "This field isn't for people like you." She had smiled then, too. Amani reached for a pen from her apron pocket. Leonard raised an eyebrow. "Oh, confident now?" She didn't answer. She wrote. Numbers turned into structure. Structure into solution. She simplified what Leonard had intentionally made complex, revealing the flaw he hadn't noticed. Minutes passed. The restaurant noise faded into an uneasy hush. Leonard's smile slowly stiffened. "What's taking so long?" he asked, a hint of irritation creeping in. Amani finally looked up. "Because," she said calmly, "you made it harder than necessary." A few people gasped. She slid the napkin back across the table, now covered with neat, confident writing. "There's your answer," she continued. "And this," she tapped a specific line, "is where your logic breaks." Leonard laughed. Too fast, too loud. "That's impossible." "Check it," she replied. He leaned forward, scanning the napkin. At first, he smirked. Then his brow furrowed. Then his jaw tightened. His investor across the table leaned in. "Leonard," "She's right." The laughter vanished. The phone stopped recording. For the first time that night, Leonard Hale felt small. Amani stepped back, ready to return to her station. But Leonard wasn't done. "Not yet." Leonard pushed his chair back slowly. The sound scraped across the marble floor, sharp enough to cut through the silence. Every eye in the restaurant stayed locked on him now. He looked up at Amani again, not with amusement this time, but with something dangerously close to disbelief. "Who taught you this?" he asked. Amani met his gaze, steady and unflinching. "No one who needed your permission." A murmur rippled through the room. Leonard stood fully now, towering over the table as if height alone could return control to him. "You think solving one puzzle makes you special?" he scoffed. "I built companies before you finished school." Amani adjusted her posture, calm as ever. "And yet," she said softly, "you still missed the error." That was when the tension snapped. Leonard's lead investor, a gray-haired woman who hadn't spoken all evening and reached for the napkin and read it carefully. Then again. Then once more. "This isn't luck," she said slowly. "This is systems-level thinking." Leonard's face tightened. She continued, turning to Amani. "Where did you study?" Amani hesitated, not because she was ashamed, but because the answer never landed well in rooms like this. "Community college," she said. "Then a state university. I worked nights." Scholarships didn't stretch far. Silence. Not pity, not sympathy. Respect. Leonard laughed again, but this time it sounded hollow. "You expect us to believe a waitress outthought me?" Amani leaned forward slightly. "No," she said. "I expect you to accept it." That was when Leonard did something no one expected. He snapped his fingers. "Manager!" he barked. "Why is she serving tables?" The manager rushed over, nervous. She asked for more hours, sir." "Said she didn't want special treatment." Leonard stared at Amani like he was seeing her for the first time. "You could be sitting at this table," he said. "Instead, you're carrying plates." Amani nodded once. "I prefer earning my seat." The room erupted in whispers. One guest whispered, "She just humbled him." Another said, "I've never seen Leonard lose control." Leonard inhaled deeply. "Sit," he said, pulling out a chair. Amani didn't move. "I'm still working," she replied. That was the moment Leonard realized something terrifying. He wasn't in charge anymore, and everyone could feel it. Leonard didn't sit back down. Instead, he walked, slowly, deliberately, around the table, around Amani. The room held its breath. "I didn't become a billionaire by being wrong," Leonard said. "And I didn't stay one by letting arrogance cloud my judgment." Amani remained still, hands folded in front of her apron. "So here's my real question," Leonard continued. "Why are you here?" Amani looked around the restaurant, the chandeliers, the suits, the power dressed up as confidence. "Because places like this decide who matters," she said quietly. "And too often they never look down." The words hit harder than any insult. Leonard stopped walking. "What if I told you," he said, "I could fund whatever idea you have tomorrow?" Amani met his eyes. "Then I'd ask why you didn't fund it yesterday before you knew my name." The silence that followed was heavy. Then Leonard smiled. Not smug, not mocking. Genuine. "You're right," he admitted. "And that's rare." He turned to the table. "Everyone here has watched me challenge people tonight," he said. "But she's the only one who challenged me." One of the guests spoke up. "I'm sorry?" "You hum while you work," he said. "Complex patterns, timing, structure." Amani smiled faintly. "I played when I was younger." "Gave it up to pay tuition." Leonard turned to the manager. "Bring her food," he said. "And a chair." Amani finally sat, not as a waitress, as an equal. Leonard leaned forward. "One last test," he said. "Not intelligence, integrity." He slid a contract across the table. "Partner with me," he said, "or walk away." Amani read it carefully. Then she pushed it back. "I don't want to work for someone who didn't see me," she said. "I want to work with someone who learns to." Leonard laughed softly. "Fair," he said. And for the first time that night, the billionaire waited for her answer. A week later, Amani wasn't carrying trays. She wasn't running from table to table. She was sitting in a glass office above the city, the skyline glowing behind her. Leonard Hale leaned back in his chair, still processing what had happened. "You didn't just solve a puzzle," he said. "You changed the way this company thinks. The way I think." Amani smiled faintly. "Sometimes the smallest observations make the biggest difference," she said. He nodded. "You reminded me arrogance has a cost." Amani opened her bag and placed the napkin from that night on the table. "Not the money," she said. "Not the fame. This is the lesson. If you don't listen, even the smartest people will fail." Leonard stared at the scribbles, then looked up. "Would you consider working with me?" he asked carefully. "Not as a subordinate, as a partner." Amani paused. She had earned respect that night, but she wanted more than recognition. She wanted fairness. "I'd consider it," she said. "But only if respect and trust are non-negotiable." Leonard smiled. "It is." From that day forward, things changed in Aurum. The restaurant staff treated Amani with real regard. Guests noticed her calm confidence. And Leonard? He learned humility that no amount of money could buy. The lesson was clear. Brilliance often comes from the places you least expect. Arrogance might command attention, but respect earns loyalty. Power may shout, but true influence listens first. Amani never forgot that night.